Hello! How is everybody doing? It is me, Sam Cabby, and it is March 11th. And hopefully the sound is okay, but if it's not, I'm sure you'll let me know. We are here today because it is our first creator live stream of 2026 with John, aka Ursus, if you're in the MapleStory World's Discord server. He is one of our MapleStory World software engineers, and he's here today to show you how to use the Quest Achievement package in our MapleStory World's GitHub to create questing systems in your world, which I am going to drop right now if you would like to also check out our GitHub. But first, we have some announcements. Oh, just one announcement, actually. We are hosting a contest in collaboration with Nextail. If you remember our last live stream, we had Reggie and we had Jules, creator of Nextail, on it to show you all the new content like Omega Sector. But with this contest, all you have to do is participate and compete in any one of the 3 Nextail St. Patrick's Day quests for a chance to win not only 50 world coin, but 1,000 noodle bucks as well. You can find more information in our Discord, and I will send you the link in the chat right now. If you would also like to check it out yourself. And yeah, we are going to get into it. That's the only announcement. So we're gonna get into how to create questing systems with John right now.
Alrighty, thank you so much. So yeah, as she mentioned, today we are going to get into quests and achievements. My name is John, aka Ursus. I'm a software engineer here at MapleStory Worlds. And many of you may already know we have a package manager inside of our Maker engine. And inside of that package manager, we have a whole list and a whole host of different types of packages intended to try to kind of kickstart your development, make things a little bit easier to develop and speed your development process along. However, we've received a lot of comments that many of our packages are a little bit dense and a little bit hard to understand. So in an effort to try to make utilizing these packages a little bit easier, we're going to be going into one of the packages today, quests and achievements. So if any of you have any worlds that you're working on that will be quest heavy, you want your players to be able to follow some sort of quest line and you know, send your players on an errand to collect things and send them back to an NPC, things like that. We're going to be working on implementing that. So this is going to be a 2-part series. The first part is just going to go over the Quest and Achievements package. We're going to deep dive into this in as much detail as possible and try to really understand this package, how to utilize it, things like that. So our goal today won't be necessarily to understand, you know, everything under the hood, every bit of code. We tried to do that with some of our other packages, but rather than that, today we're just going to go into just how to utilize the package and the features of it, what it can do, how to utilize it and implement it. So today, that's what we're going to go into. And then next week, we'll be utilizing this package to make something a little bit more practical and go a little bit more in depth and utilize this package for something a little bit cooler. Okay, so let's get right into it. So today's goal will be to first understand the features of the package as mentioned. We're going to walk through the setup of the package, and we're going to try to understand how to utilize this package. And then finally, hopefully we'll have enough time to do this, but we're going to create our own achievements and quests. So we're going to utilize the features that are already available within our package, or within our quests and achievements package, and try to add a couple, you know, additional quests using the systems that we're going to today. So before we get any further, let's do a quick demo. Just a visual showcase. So we have, if you press F1, which is our key at the moment to show our packages or show the achievements window, we have various tabs on the left side here. We have daily quests, we have weekly quests, we have feature quests, which we don't have any in here. This is just to showcase the hidden quests. And we'll get into that in just a moment. And finally, we have some normal quests that we can go through. So we can claim the rewards of the quests that we've already done. For example, if we entered the world, which we've just done, this is kind of a login reward. We can claim our reward, and then in our console here, it'll show that we've collected this reward. If we jumped 2 times, we can collect this reward. If we spend 10 stamina, we can collect this reward. We hold 100 mesos, and et cetera, et cetera. So, for example, if I jump, so here's one. If we jump 20 times, I'm going to jump in the background here. And you can see that our quests are kind of updating as I do so. So I promise you, I am pressing space to jump in the background. And then we can have, specific conditions like on map 2, jump 2 times, log into the world twice, etc. So we also have a button to claim all rewards. So we can, in one click, claim all the rewards for all of our quests. And we can see the rewards that we've collected. We also have an admin tool. So in our achievements, we have an admin tool that if we type in our user ID, we can modify our player achievement data. We'll get into that in just a moment. And then we also have our quests. So we saw earlier the achievements. This time we're looking at quests, which is pretty much the same thing, except in the way that they are visible to the player. Achievements are more kind of long-term goals. Quests are just kind of intended, you accept the quest and then you either abandon the quest or choose to complete it, things like that. So there's a slightly different feature set depending on whether you're utilizing the achievements or the quest, but they are pretty similar in their functionality. Okay, similar to the quests, we also have a editor or a game management tool for our quests as well, so we can manage player data from this way. Okay, so we just did like a brief visual overview of the achievements package, but let's get into a little bit more features of our achievements. So and please feel free. I'm trying to keep an eye on chat as much as possible. So if you have any questions along the way, please do ask them and we'll try to answer them as we go. Okay, so we have our dynamic conditioning. So we saw a little bit that we have various conditions that we can set, that we can manage. For certain achievements, we can set it to jump 2 times or X number of times. We can set it so that it tracks whether we spent stamina or not, whether we hold mesos. We also have systems to check whether the player had ever collected this much maximum mesos. We have, a way to check for how many mesos the player had spent. So you can add an achievement for spending mesos if you'd like. We can have kind of grouped quests where we have multiple conditions in a single quest. So we have to both earn 10 mesos and jump 1 time. We have login quests as we saw, things like that. So we have a lot of different types of conditionals that you can apply to your quest. There are also we can define our own conditions if we'd like. And we'll showcase how we can do that. We're not fixed to the quests or the conditions that we have preset into this package. There is a way to more dynamically set additional conditionals for your achievements and your quests. Okay, moving right along, we also have repeatable achievements and quests. So if you accept the quest and then a player completes that quest, this quest is not considered kind of completed. It can just be re-accepted again. So these are the kinds of quests where it's intended to be infinitely repeatable, and the players can collect the rewards as many times as they like, as long as they complete the achievements. We have auto-accepting quests and normal repeatable quests. So if we have a repeatable quest that, let's say every day we want a player to do X number of things, the player doesn't necessarily need to accept the quest. We can have the player just automatically have the quest accepted in their quest inventory, and then it will automatically just start tracking the quest. Or we can set it so that the player has to first accept the quest before they can start adding to the progress. Okay, moving on, we also have multi-step quests. So if we have several quests that are intended to be completed in sequence, let's say you're talking to an NPC, and you complete the quest and you progress through the next storyline, but quest number 2 is not available until you complete quest number 1, then we can utilize these kinds of multi-step achievements. So we can make sure, so in this example, we have quest 1_1. If we complete that, then we have quest 1_2. Complete that, then we have quest 1_3. Until we complete each one in sequence, the next one won't be available for us to accept. Okay. So as you might have guessed, we have several states in our quests. We have quests that have been accepted, quests that are in progress, quests that have been completed, and quests that are abandoned. And we can see various types of buttons depending on the type of state that it's in. We also have certain dependent quests, so we'll get into this in just a moment, but we have epic and sub quests, where the epic quest, where the sub quests depend on the epic quest. So if there's any quest that depends on another one, we can still see the quest, but it'll be hidden from view until we complete the dependent quest. Okay, so as I mentioned, there are epic quests, and these are kind of the staged quests. So we can have quests that are completed in sequence of each other, and these are quests that are intended to run for long durations and have to be completed one after another. The reason I bring this up, even though we've already gone over steps, is to showcase our dependency quests. So we can see that our subquest 102_1 cannot be accepted, even though that we can see the quest, but the accept button is kind of grayed out. And the reason for this is because subquest 102 depends on our epic quest 2 to be completed. So before we can activate this quest, we have to first complete our target quest. So we can set in the description here, complete quest X before this quest becomes available. So we can set up quests in this way to make sure that the players cannot accept this quest until we've completed a previous one or the dependent one. Okay, so as I mentioned, we also have admin tools. So we have GM tools for achievements and quests. If you type in the user ID here, we have the ability to look up the user's quest progression data. We can see when they've begun the quest, the time that they've completed the quest, what the current value is, and the idea of the quest, things like that. So we can look up the quest data. We can also edit the quest data, and we'll showcase that in a moment as well. So same thing, we also have a similar window for quests as well. So we just looked at the achievements one, but we also have one for quests as well. So, and very similar in terms of the functionality. We can look them up. We can see what progress the player has made in certain quests. We can also edit the data as well. Okay, so to utilize this package, there are certain setup steps. The first step is going to be attach our necessary components. So once you import this package in, you'll see that there's the player DB manager, the player account, player achievement, and player quest components. All of these have to be attached to the player entity for our quest and achievements package to function. So please make sure to attach these components first. And then inside of our admin logic, there's a logic script file that we have to modify. And there's two functions here. So we have an isAdmin, which is the most secure because it's a server only. We also have a client only isAdmin local player, which checks for whether the local player matches the user ID. So you can check for whether or not the local player matches a certain list of IDs inside of the isAdmin. We can also utilize the server-only isAdmin to check for the user ID. So we can have a table in here checking for the user ID that is passed in and check if the table contains the user ID. Same thing for the local player. We can have a certain table that is kind of hard-coded into here. And then we can check if the local player matches the list of user IDs. Okay. Sorry, and these admin perms are very, very important. Please don't just keep these default values. Make sure that before you utilize or publish this package to make sure that you do have proper permissioning in here. Otherwise, any player can just open up your admin tools by pressing F2 or F4, whatever the keybind is for the admin permission. So please do make sure to set these values. Okay, so we also have a UI path for, so by default, all of the necessary UI for making these tools function is going to be spawned in automatically. So you don't have to place any of the UI models in. It will be automatically spawned into the paths that we designate here. So we have a UI path and a tool UI path. So the UI path is for the default UI for achievements. It'll be that first window. And the tool UI will be the GM tool. So by default, it'll be under the UI default group path. However, if you'd like to separate them into different groups, please do modify and edit these so that the proper entities can be spawned into the proper children and the proper paths. So both for the achievement sample logic and the quest sample logic, modify these parameters or these properties if you want them to spawn in different groups. Very similarly, we have our data storage name configuration. So this is going to be the name of the data storage space that our tools are going to utilize. So for example, our achievement utilizes a storage name achievement, but let's say you already have a data storage key called achievement and you don't want any collisions, you're going to want to make sure that you modify this. So that you have a unique storage space for your achievement system. So there's two locations to modify these. We have the GM achievement tool logic and then the GM quest tool logic for modifying your data storage. Okay, and then finally, we also have a UI HUD model. This is not spawned in by default. But this is going to be that UI that you saw on the right-hand side of the screen. And this is just debug tools. So we can manually force a login to happen. We can reward the player with mesos, and we can update the stamina value. We can decrease the stamina value. We can things like that. So this will be utilized so we can test our achievements and see if they work without manually doing all the work to achieve those conditions. So if you want to utilize this tool, be sure to actually place this because it's not spawned in automatically. Okay, so I've prepared a few short clips for each of our systems. So we already saw most of these, so we're not going to get into too much detail here. But as you saw, we have the achievements window. We can complete different achievements. We can claim the rewards for them. Achievements, again, are long-term achievements that are all kind of automatically accepted. So over time, the player is expected to slowly progress towards these achievements, and more likely than not, your achievements will have multi-steps. So for the login, for example, you might have one reward that is rewarded at the first login step, but then the next time you might want to require the user to log in 2 times or 10 times and 20 times. So you can kind of level up your achievements over time. We also have the GM admin tool, or we also have a debug tool. So you notice that there's a debug button up at the top, and we can utilize these to kind of fake progress towards a certain achievement. So for example, these achievements, they will most likely have different steps. So if this current achievement is on step 1, we can upgrade this to move on to the next step without having to manually complete the achievement to move on to the next step. So we can utilize this debug tool to kind of fake progress or add to the progress value. Okay, and we also have our achievements GM tool. So if we paste in our user ID and we look it up, we can see all of the data for the progress that the player has made, and then we can also edit the values for the achievement. So we can modify the value of a certain user achievement, and then we can apply those values. Okay, we also have the quest window. The quest window, as mentioned, this is more so players will be accepting the quest, making progress towards the quest, and then turning them in for rewards. So they have to complete the quest to trigger the reward to be delivered to the player. Okay, we also have an admin tool for the quest as well. We can type in our user ID and then look through all of the progress that the player has made towards all the different quests. We can edit a certain quest and modify the values for those. We can reset them so we can clear the progress for a certain quest, things like that. Okay, moving on. So I mentioned that there are various conditionals that are tied to these quests. So these conditionals are known in our code as actions. So if you look at one of the data sets that we'll kind of cover, this, for example, is the quest conditions data set. For each quest, there is a certain ID number, and then we can define the conditional enumerator for the quest or for the action associated with making progress towards this quest. So quest ID 100 requires 1 jump. So we can define all of these different enumerators, and we have a separate class or struct for each one of these that defines the behavior of what happens when you're checking for this conditional. We also have optional conditional arguments. So for example, this meso change conditional struct depends on or takes in whether or not you're gaining it or you're spending it, or if you're checking for the total balance, or if you're checking for the maximum value, not the current value, things like that. So you can have different parameters that are passed in to the conditionals to change the behavior of what happens and how your conditionals check. So are you checking for the gain of mesos? Are you checking for the balance, for spending, things like that? Okay, so this is the parent class, and we can see that we have all of these methods that are kind of encapsulated out of the subclasses. So we have the arguments that we saw here. that we saw previously that will be loaded in. Not all of the subclasses will utilize this. This is optional for you to implement or not, depending on the use case scenario. But we'll get into an example of one that does utilize these arguments and see how that works. But we have several different subclasses that inherit from our action conditions data. So this is our parent class. And then we have several substructs that are that will inherit this. And then we're going to add all of those into the action condition enum logic script. And then associate a certain enum with the corresponding action struct. So to create a new condition, we're going to need to inherit from the action condition data, and then we're going to create our new condition, and then we're going to start overriding some of the methods from our action condition data struct in our new condition or our new struct, and implement the methods that we need. Notice also that we can have certain conditions have multiple enums associated with it. So we saw certain quests have 2 or maybe even more quests associated with them. So for example, our quest 201 has the earned mesos condition with the meso change enum, and we have to gain 20 mesos, and we have to jump 2 times to complete this quest. So we have to satisfy both of these conditions in order to make this quest completable. Okay, so let's take a look at this particular one. So we have, as mentioned, we have our meso change that was associated with this one. So we have our first method that we override, which is the clone. So this is just simply going to create a new instance of our meso change type, and then just return that. It does not do any actual cloning. It just kind of creates a new instance of this class. We are also going to inherit our get action enum list. So this is going to check if the action enum actually applies to this action. So when we're checking for whether or not we've completed a certain action, we're going to check if this particular condition matches the enum that the action is looking for. So if the action enum meso change does not exist in this quest, or does not exist in the action that was being performed, then we will not add progress towards this quest. So this is just to check whether this particular class applies to the action that was performed. This particular action also utilizes arguments, as I mentioned. So we're going to take in the type. So we're going to assign the check type to as a string from the argument that was passed in. So this does not always have to be gain. Depending on which conditional that you're creating, you can have different parameters in here. But this, our meso change class utilizes the gain or the spend and balance, those type of strings to check for the type. So whether we're going to check for a gain or a spend, we're going to need this value. We also have a field for extra conditionals. So we can have a condition for if it's both a balance and if it's utilizing the max. So the isMax balance flag is going to be set as true if we want to both check for the balance and we want that to be the maximum value that the player has ever achieved, not the current value. So if you hit the required amount one time, you don't need to hit it again, even if you spend some money. So that's what the max parameter was going to be utilized for in this case. Okay, so we also have our check method, which is going to be checking for whether or not the action that was performed satisfies the actual conditional. So we can see our if-else kind of split depending on whether it's a gain whether it's a spend or whether it's a balance. And we're going to define we're going to return the proper Boolean depending on the case. So we also have the get next user value. This is going to calculate the next value that the user has to complete for the UI to be displayed, to display inside of the UI. Okay, so we also have a jump associated with this action. So same thing. We are going to inherit and override the clone method. This is just going to create a new class or a new instance of our jump action type. And then we're also going to override the get action enum list. And in this particular case, we're going to override the action enum state change. So this is going to check if the state has changed, the player animation state has changed from, let's say, idle to jump, or whatever to jump. Then we're going to check. Then we're going to satisfy this as the conditional to trigger this condition to be activated. So if it does get activated, we're going to perform a check to see if our value satisfies the final condition. So in this case, we have our event, the action event that's going to pass in our various parameters. So this one is going to be the first parameter of the argument is going to be our previous state. args2 is going to be the current state. So if the current state is jump, then we're going to activate and make progress towards this quest. So this is how the jump method is going to be working. Okay, so we went into how the actions work. I don't see any questions coming in from our chat quite yet, so I'm just going to continue on. If you do have any questions, please do drop them. I know this might be a little bit dense, or maybe I'm speaking too fast, so please do let me know. Okay, so we have our conditions set up. Now we have to start referencing those conditions in our quests and our achievements. So first, we're going to utilize learn how to set up the quests, and then we'll get into the achievements. So first off, in our quest dataset, we have first our kind of basic information, like the ID that this quest is associated with. This is going to be utilized in the quest conditionals dataset that we're going to take a look at. So our quest conditional dataset is going to reference this particular ID, but this dataset is just for the basic information that is associated with this quest. So we have our ID, we have the name of our quest that is displayed up here, we have the description, and then we have the progressing description, which is what we'll display once the quest has been accepted and it's in progress. We also have the category enum. This is going to be which tab that this category will be inserted into. And then we also have our cycle enum, which is going to determine at what rate the quest progress will be reset. So we have to complete this quest within a certain day, within a given week or a month, whatever it might be, within the given time period. So we can add these quests into the cycle tab, but we can have different types of quests that require different timings for completion. We can define whether this quest is repeatable or not. So after you complete the quest, it will not be just disabled forever. This quest can be accepted again if the player likes. We can also set certain quests to be auto-accepted. So the player does not necessarily need to accept this quest. As soon as they complete the quest, it'll be auto-accepted again. So the player will not need to manually accept this quest. So these will be the linked to previous ID and the required ID will be determining whether or not this quest depends on another quest. So the linked previous ID will kind of disable the accept button until the previous quest has been completed. So we can see that we have ID 100. 101 depends on ID 100. 101 will still be visible but it will be disabled from being able to be accepted until quest 100 is completed. However, 102 will be disabled until will be disabled and hidden from our quest inventory until the required quest is completed. So quest 1100 will not show up in our quest inventory until quest 102 is completed. And quest 102 depends on quest 101. 101 depends on 100. So you have to kind of complete this in stages. Once you complete 102, then quest 1101 will finally appear in our inventory. Okay, so for example, here we have quest 102 and 102_2, both of which are hidden and are visible in our quest inventory, but they have been disabled. Oh, this is highlighting the wrong section, I'm sorry. But here we can see that we have epic quest 1_1, which is this one here. Once we complete this, then we can show the achievements. So once we complete quest 1_1, we can see subquest 100 start to appear in our inventory. So sorry, I did highlight the wrong one. I did highlight the correct one. This is just to showcase that the quest is hidden from your inventory until the dependent quest is completed. So here we have quest 100 that was hidden from view until quest 100 was completed. So once we completed quest 100, then it popped up in our inventory. Okay, so this time we have quest 102_1 and 102_2. Then we complete quest 1_2, and we complete quest 1_3. And then we can see 1_2_1 and 102_2 both appear in our inventory. So both of these were hidden from view, and then it popped up in our inventory. Okay, we can set certain quests to be not abandonable. So they cannot be abandoned once they've been accepted. So this repeatable quest, once you accept it, they cannot be abandoned and they must be completed. We also have certain quests that give rewards. We can set certain quests to not give any rewards. Some quests can consume items. So if you complete this quest, it'll consume this item. And then if you complete it, then it'll reward this particular item. The actual method for implementing the items that is consumed is not actually implemented. This is more so a demo, and it'll just simply log out these IDs. But it's assumed that you have a separate data table and a separate inventory system that you can utilize this ID to either consume or to reward this particular item. Okay, so we also have a priority. So depending on the value that's defined in here, we can increase or decrease the priority and where it displays in our quest inventory. And then finally, we have disable. It's just going to disable the quest. Let's say over time, you don't want this quest to, or you decided that this quest is not a great one, or players are not engaging with this quest a lot, then you can just disable it and then choose to re-enable it later if you'd like. Okay, so we have so that was our quest information. This time is the conditional information. So quest 100 has this has the jump condition. So we have our ID and the description for our conditional, and then we also have the conditional enum associated with it, and then we have our arguments as we saw, arguments that we can pass in, the value that the player needs to achieve to complete this. And then finally, again, disable. This will just hide the quest or the conditional from the corresponding quest. So if you had a certain, conditional that you no longer wanted to utilize, then you can check here to disable this quest. Okay, so I also mentioned that you can have multiple conditions. So quest 200 can have 2 conditions associated with it. So we have to define quest 200 twice and the corresponding conditional enumerator and the various arguments and the value to link 2 different conditionals to the same quest. Same thing with 201, we can have 2 different quests that we associate with quest 201. Okay, so that was quests. Next, we'll move into achievements. Achievements work very similarly. So we're going to be talking about mostly the same points here. But our achievements data set, it has our ID and our the name. Here's something new with the achievements is that we can have a certain achievement that that's kind of acts as a parent achievement to sub achievements. So this particular achievement, for example, the daily mission complete all daily missions. So here we have to complete all 3 of these. So the parent achievements to quest ID 11, 12, and 13 is quest ID 10. So before this quest can be completed, we have to complete all 3 of these quests. Okay, so we also have the category enum, which is going to decide which category that this quest appears into, and then a cycle enum, as we saw, which will determine when this quest will be reset. And exactly the same as the quests, we have the achievements, achievement conditionals. So these will be pulling from the same structures that we saw earlier for the attending, jumping, stamina change, meso change. All of these will be shared from both the quests and the achievements. And they can be dynamically set for how many to complete, things like that. So notice that we don't have a field for actually setting how many of each one to complete, and we'll see into why that is in just a bit. That's a separate table that we're going to define this in. And then we have a priority, which is going to just show where this achievement shows up in our achievements inventory. And then finally, we can choose to disable a quest, or so for debugging reasons or testing reasons or whatever it might be, to just disable this quest and hide it from view. That's what our featured category is kind of for, where we see quest 600 is in our featured category, and then we've chosen to disable it. If we remove this disable, it'll pop up in our featured category. Okay, so we saw earlier that we don't have the ability to define how many to complete. That is in our separate achievement step data set, which will determine which steps or how many steps are associated with a certain achievement. So we can see achievement 10 only has one, complete all daily achievements. There's no second step to this one. But achievement 100 has, you have to complete value 2. You have to log in 2 times to complete this achievement. And we can see that we also have multiple steps associated with this one achievement. So quest 100, or achievement 100, sorry, I keep mixing out quests and achievements with my terminology. But quest 100, you can have up to 5 steps. And of course, we can have more than 5, but this one has 5 steps where you have to log in 2 times, and then 4 times, and then 6 times, and then 8 times, and then 10 times, each one kind of upgrading as you complete this achievement. This particular achievement doesn't have reward associated with them, but we can see that we also have other achievements that do reward some sort of item. Okay, so let's take a look at our achievement step. We're going to quickly run through this. So we have the description that is going to display the current description for whatever step. So we can have, log in twice, log in 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, whatever it might be. And then we have our step index. So this is going to be step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and each one will need to be completed in sequence. Then we have the values associated with them, how many times you have to complete the achievement. The actual condition enum is defined inside of the achievement dataset, not the step dataset. But whatever the conditionals are, you have to complete that many in here. We also have our reward items to reward the player once they complete this achievement, to claim the reward associated with this achievement. And then finally, as always, we can just disable if we no longer want it to show up in our quest, or sorry, in our achievements. Okay, so that is it for our full kind of explanation of quests and achievements. Hopefully that gave you a solid understanding of the systems involved. We are now going to do a quick demo of adding our own achievements in. But before we do that, do we have any questions so far on anything that we've covered? You know, there was a lot to take in, a lot of information. But you know, if anyone has any questions about that. If not, we will move on to the demo. Okay, I think we're good. Let's move on to the demo. If anyone is typing or currently asking a question, I'll keep my eye on chat to try to answer those questions as I go along. Okay, so first off, let us try to add a new condition. So let's go into our quest dataset, and let's add a new quest. So we have quest 100, 200, and let's just add maybe a 300. So ID 300, let's say epic quest 3_1, and this is going to be, let's say, my new epic quest. The in progress description will be, let's say, in progress. Get me the stuff. And then this will be in the epic category. We don't have a cycle enumerator with this because this is going to be just, let's say this was a quest that was delivered by an NPC that you want, that's sending the player on some sort of errand. We don't want this to be repeatable because this is a single quest. We don't have any previous ID that we want to depend on. Or actually, let's add a dependency. So if we want this quest to depend on something, we can, as mentioned here, if we write it in the linked previous ID, this will make our quest visible in our quest inventory panel, but it will just be deactivated. If we set it in our required ID, it will be hidden from view until the required dependent quest is completed. So this time, let's add, let's say 200 as the required, or I guess the linked previous ID. So until quest 200 is completed, you can't move on to 300. So this is kind of our epic series of quests that you have to kind of progress along. Okay, this quest will not be auto-accepted. We want to abandon this if possible, so the player can re-accept the quest if they'd like. Let's say because we're gathering something, we want a certain item to be consumed. So let's say we wanted the player to bring over 5 items of ID 100. You can say 5 of this item, and then we can say once you complete this quest, let's say we reward with ID 101. Again, none of these items are actually linked in. This is just going to be logged in our console. But they will actually have to be hooked up for reward delivery. We don't need to change the priority here, and we don't need to disable this quest. Okay, so we have our quest data. And let's see what happens if we just press play now. Actually, before we do that, let's go up into our preferences maker and let's just clear all of our data. I think I did a ton of testing beforehand, and we're just gonna clear out all of our data. So again, if you want to clear out your data storage, this is just for your local data storage. While you're testing, you can click on initialize storage data, and this will just clear out your data storage. Okay, so if we open F3, that is our Epic Quest. And then if we, sorry, I think I have it the other way around. So let's try accepting quest 1, Epic Quest 1. We have to jump one time, so we'll jump. We'll complete this quest. 1, 2 appears. Let's accept 2, 1. We have to jump one time, and let's also gain all of our mesos. And then now that we've completed quest 2, it appears in our inventory. So sorry, it's the other way around. We'll test this again in just a moment. But if we have in our linked previous ID, it will be hidden until you complete it. And then the required ID will just have it as visible but not acceptable. And we'll change it up just so we can see how that works. Okay, so we have my new Epic Quest. If we accept it, we can see in progress, get me the stuff. And because we don't have any conditionals associated with this, we can just complete it without doing anything. Okay, so let's actually learn how to add a conditional. Let's clear our data one more time. But before we do, let's try moving this from the linked previous ID column into the required ID column. And then let's see what happens. So we go to F3 again, and this time we have our 3_1 available, but we can't accept it until we complete Epic Quest 2_1. So ideally, what we might put for this is in the quest description, complete quest 2_1 to unlock. And this would actually be in context of the game, right? You know, talk to this person before you can, or complete this person's quest before you can get to me, things like that. So we'll save that, and then we'll open F3 again. And then you can see my new Epic Quest, complete quest 2_1 to unlock. So we have to complete this quest to unlock it. Okay, so before we try to unlock it, let's add some conditionals to this quest. So to do that, we have to open up the quest condition dataset, and then we have to add in our condition. So we have our the description associated with this condition. This is just UI based, so it'll just be what we display in the UI next to our condition. But the enum will determine the actual value or the actual struct to check for. So we're gonna type in ID 300 because that's the quest that we want to associate this conditional into, and we're going to say duck. And the player has to figure out how to duck, or how to complete this quest. The conditional enum is going to be crouch. And we don't have that condition yet. We're going to create that in just a moment. Okay, so we're going to have to crouch, let's say 10 times. Okay, so how do we create this new conditional? So first, as mentioned, we're going to have to extend this the struct. We're going to do action condition data underscore. Let's say, well, actually, maybe the easiest way, because we're kind of doing the same thing as our jump. Actually, first, let's just extend first. Action condition data underscore crouch. So we have this new struct. We're going to have to add this into our condition enum. So we're going to open up our condition enum script here. And in here, we have to add our crouch. So here we have crouch. And then we're going to add in our crouch enum. And then we're going to change the numbering here. Property integer, and then crouch. Set this to 3, 4, and 5. Cool. Okay, so that's our enumerator setup for this. I do see a question, can this table be accessed and modified dynamically? For example, to dynamically create a quest description. Unfortunately not. This is going to be more static data that we're going to load in. So all of the quests do have to be created, or at least the functionalities of this package have to be created, have to be loaded in, and they have to be defined in this quest data set. But I suppose there's nothing really preventing you from kind of creating your own quests. So we do have our quest data that is going to kind of store all of the values inside of this table. So the quest data set table is going to be just stored and loaded into here. So you can dynamically create it, you can define your own, and then you can associate it. You can associate the proper conditionals with this quest. We're not going to get into that because we don't want to overcomplicate today's demo. But yes, there's nothing really preventing you from doing that yourself. That's a little bit more advanced level implementation beyond what this is intended to do. But theoretically, yes, you should be able to do so. Okay, going back to our script here, we have our we have our action condition enum, and we pasted in we created our new crouch enumerator. We also have to create that in our action enum. So we have our, actually no, that's just the condition enum. Okay, so so we've done that. We also have our new crouch struct. So at the moment, there's nothing in here, but let's actually just copy over our jump here. So we're going to do basically the same thing that our jump does, except this time we're going to do crouch. And where we're getting that from is if we go into our default player, we can see that we have our crouch avatar animation component state. So this is going to be what we're checking for. And just really quick, in terms of where this is coming from, just so that we can follow the logic a little bit better, is we have our handle state change event that is attached to the player account. So we attached this in our setup step. If you remember, we attached all of our components that we needed inside of our default player. Player account was one of those components, and we're listening in on the state change event. That is going to create our action event. That's going to create our state change action enum. So that is where inside of our, let's go back to our crouch, we have our state change action enum. And this is what we're checking for inside of our player account. We're assigning the action enum to the state change, and that's what we're checking for in our jump. So we're checking if the action that was performed, which is this, sorry, a lot of scripts open, which is this state change event. So this is going to be when the state changes from one state to another, let's say from idle to move, or move to jump, or whatever it might be. This event is going to be triggered and sent to the self. So we're listening in on this event as a server-only method. And then we're going to cache our arguments. The first argument is going to be the current state name. The second argument is going to be the previous state name. So that's what we're checking in here, is the second, is the current state. The state that it was transitioned into should be the crouch. So that's what we're listening here, and that's what we're checking for in our arguments here. We're not going to follow the full path of the data. That I'm going to leave up to you, because that will maybe overcomplicate this webinar just a little bit. So, so we're checking for the crouch, for our state change, and then we're going to make sure that our state change enum is what we're actually checking. So we've created a new conditional, very simple, nothing too complicated, but of course you can kind of see how we can start to kind of complicate or add a little bit more nuanced behavior to our quest by adding to our player account or adding other kind of components and scripts that send action events. As long as they are sent as an action and they're sent to this entity, you can trigger action events. You can create your own action enumerators that maybe are not just dependent on state change. You can also check for other things as well. Okay, so we've done all of that. We want 10 times crouch. So that should be it for our new state. Let's check. Actually, let's first refresh. So we are in local workspace. Okay, so let's press F3. We have epic quest 2_1. We have to complete quest 2_1 first. So we're going to accept 2_1. We have to jump 1 time, and then we have to earn 10 mesos. Let's earn 30 this time. And we've earned 10, which is more than enough. And we're going to complete this quest. And then now we can see that our quest 2_1 is now available. We can accept this quest now, and then it will move to in progress. We have get me the stuff, and we have our description as duck. Player is going to figure out that duck means crouch, and we're going to start crouching. I'm going to hide this UI and just show that we are crouching. Then open that up, and we've now ducked 5 times, 6 times, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to complete this achievement, or complete this quest, and we're going to see that we have reward item 101 that was rewarded to us. So we've got 3 of item 101. Okay, so that is really it for me. Hopefully that was a good understanding, or that gave you a good understanding of how our quest and achievement systems work. Any questions before we close out today? We're good. Not seeing any questions coming in. So, alrighty. Well, that was it. Thank you so much for joining today. So again, today we went into quests and achievements. We went into the package and an overview of the package and how we can utilize this package. Next week, we're going to go into a little bit more detail of utilizing this package, and we're going to actually use this package now. Now that we understand how this package works, we're going to use it to create kind of our own quest line. So look forward to next week's webinar where we'll go into that. If you have any questions that you just didn't have time to ask, or you forgot to ask, or you want to take time to understand this, please do drop those in next week. We have one final question coming in that I'll take. Would quest progression through dialogue be similar? So this one, it's not intended as being awarded through dialogue. However, that's something that maybe we can get into. We can kind of modify or utilize this package to activate a quest or reward a quest, or start a quest line after a dialogue. So we will get into that next week when we start kind of utilizing this package to create some cool stuff. So look forward to that. Alrighty, well, thank you so much. I will pass the mic back to CM Cabby.
Hello, thank you, John. And again, to find the MapleStory World's GitHub package that John was using in this live stream, go to this link I put in the chat just now. And yeah, how about some of that good old housekeeping. As a reminder, we are hosting a contest in collaboration with Nextale. Participate and complete any of the 1 of 3 Nextale St. Patrick's Day quests for a chance to win 50 world coins and 1,000 noodle bucks. For more information, you can find it in our Discord right here. A lot of links. Okay. And yeah, as John mentioned, our next live stream will be Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. So literally next Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. PDT. And again, we're bringing back John, who will be continuing how to craft questing systems in part 2 of this how-to series. And I think that is it for me and the Maple Story Worlds live stream. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again, John, and goodbye.